Oh, you're in the wrong podcast. Well, what are you looking for? Bit of true crime? A sideways look at the life cycle of a common household slipper? Well, you may as well stay now you're here and have a listen to the Failing Writers podcast. Welcome.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Here we are. Season 3,
Well,
ladies and gentlemen.
No, because it's not actually. This isn't actually season 3, is it? This is the end of season 2 that we never got around to doing.
Yeah, that was quite a long time ago.
It's a bit of a
You're
gap.
going to have to remind me what that's all about, Tom.
This could be the world record for the biggest gap between episodes in the same season.
Yeah, I'd sort of forgotten that.
Yeah, this is us finishing up, isn't it? Because some idiot came up with the idea of us writing a sitcom during season 2, didn't they?
Actually, that brings us on to the kind of big old elephant in the room, which I feel like we should probably acknowledge quite early on, which is the Davelessness of this situation.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember, but actually way back in that episode, that last episode that we did back in November, Dave said, and I don't know if you remember this, but he said something like, isn't it usually at the end of the season, at the end of the second season, when someone dies and one of the regular cast members has to die and get replaced?
Yeah.
Wasn't that weird foreshadowing? And we should point out that Dave isn't actually dead. Sorry.
To our knowledge, he isn't,
thankfully.
no.
Yeah, no, he's not actually dead, but he isn't here. However, he has had to withdraw from the podcast for a period. And Dave, if you're listening to this, which he won't be, Willie, because he's not in it, so he won't be listening. But if you are, Dave, hello. We're looking forward to having you back at some point when you're good and ready. So there you go. We've done that. Yeah. Done the Dave thing.
We've confirmed that this still is actually season 2, embarrassingly.
So what's it all about, Tom?
So this is the culmination of the entirety of season 2, which is a massive oversell of what this episode is going to be like for anyone listening, of us kind of pitching our thing. So fasten your seatbelts and try not to fall asleep.
We're here with our poker night pitch. It's been months of sweat and tears. God, it feels like years. But finally, the summit to show. Oh yeah, we're ready to go. Had the idea ages back. Series 1, episode 26, in fact. And after much on-brand procrastination, putting off and panic, writing happened. And we've got a sitcom, drama, comedy thing on our hands. A dramedy, that's what we'll call it now. And we know where your next question's at. You're going to ask, why the bloody hell did you do that? Why are you writing a sitcom drama? Well, we thought it'd be fun. Thought it would write itself, but life got in the way and became a bit of a pain. But for once, the failing writers failed to fail and wrote right to the end. Didn't just leave it floating, made it real. See, pilot script, series outline, it's all about to get revealed. What's it about? It's a bunch of middle-aged blokes who play poker and don't talk much, and a few jokes. There's characters like Wrench, who's a bit gruff, Jim, who's full of bluff, Steve, who's daft, and Savile, who's creepy. Bobby's a bit, anal, and then there's lovely Ronnie, who never tries, so he can't fail. They find themselves opening up, changing what they thought it meant to be a man. They learn to grow, become better people, and even dress in drag. And there's at least 2 funny bits when stuff happens and things are said. Like the bit where Wrench gets angry and Jim gets a dildo stuck to his head. Anything could happen, we don't know what to expect. We could get greenlit, the next big thing, or well, it might not be quite that good. Some of it might be okay. I mean, can't all be terrible, can it? I mean, it could be. Yeah, no, it could be. Oh, God, this is going to be horrific, isn't it?
So, this is it, Tommy.
Yeah.
How are we feeling? The culmination of months of writing and collaboration and argument and fine-tuning and late-night graft and humiliating discussions with experts.
Been a few of them, yeah.
Yeah. Finally arrived. How are you feeling?
I guess relieved, mainly, isn't it? To think, this all began as just a fun little exercise we thought might make sort of interesting content for the pod.
Yeah.
What were we thinking?
I don't know, to be honest.
Before we do this, before we finally present our sitcom to Richard Watcham, Chief Creative Officer of UK TV, we should probably, bring our listeners up to speed so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, good point. So for those that don't know, we have written the treatment for a sitcom, including the whole of the pilot episode. It's called Poker Night, and you can hear the original brainstorm for this idea back in Series 1, Episode 26.
Yeah, long time ago. But what's it all about, John? What's it all about?
It's about a bunch of blokes who play poker.
Cool. Well, that's it then. Everyone knows everything they need to know, don't they? Well, we might have we got any more information to share?
Well, yeah, okay. So this poker night has been running for decades, right, in the back room of a pub. But the thing is, these blokes just turn up. They just, drink, play poker, and that's about it. They've known each other for years, but they don't really actually talk to each other because that's not what blokes do, is it?
No.
So consequently, they know practically nothing about each other, and these are not men without issues.
Yeah, but Steve, right, the landlord of the pub they play at, decides to turn it into a trendy French bistro, which I should point this out. You're going to blush at this, John, but one of the greatest elements of this entire sitcom is the brilliant wordplay that you put in there, John. The pub is called the Three Sheets Pub, which is obviously a well-known euphemism for being drunk. 3 sheets to the wind. But when Steve changes it to a bistro, a French bistro, he just translates that directly into French. So at the start of the episode, we see Workman changing the sign from the 3 sheets to the Gallic version, Le Toitole. Which I thought was...
I'm so proud of that.
It should be. It's brilliant. Lovely wordplay.
Thanks, man.
Lovely wordplay.
Hey, do you know what we should do, Tommy?
Yeah, what?
At this point, I think we should employ the power of acting.
Mm-hmm.
And we should bring a bit of this to life. Do you know what I mean? For the listeners, like a table read of a scene, if you will, to just give people a bit of feels for it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we should, I guess. Well, we could, couldn't we? Right, so well, let's pick up the story from... So, at the start, the guys have been chucked out of the pub that they normally play poker in, and for one reason or another, they've invited themselves back to Jim's house. Yeah, which is a lot smaller, his house, than he'd said it is. Yeah. Jim's got all these dreams of being some massive entrepreneur, but it's kind of all nonsense and lies. So they're starting to guess that Jim might not be the big shot entrepreneur he's making out. And Malcolm Renshaw, a.k.a. Wrench, which is his nickname, the sort of hard man of the group, he's, as usual, he's completely pissed, isn't he? He's had way too much to drink.
Yeah, he's steaming. Yeah, and so we arrive at this scene with Jim coming into his house before the others to sort of pave the way with his wife, Susie, for a bunch of blokes to descend on her quiet Thursday evening. And as he comes into the hall, we see Jim pick up a final reminder bill from the letterbox and swiftly ram it into his pocket when Susie peers around the corner of the living room into the hall, because even she doesn't know the financial difficulty that they're in.
You're back early. Pop the bins out.
Well, actually, poker night is still on. So, interior, Jim's house, the kitchen diner, evening. Jim walks into the intimate kitchen diner. The table and chairs are entirely obscured by piles of cardboard boxes.
You said you weren't going to play anymore. You said money's a bit tight. You're going to have to take that NutriBullet back.
NutriBullet? Well, we've got teeth, haven't we? So, anyway, we're not playing for real money, just little plastic coins.
Okay, but how come you're here?
Steve's bloody chucked us out, hasn't he? So we're playing here tonight.
You can't. We've got no space because of all your...
Susie gestures with disgust to a pile of cardboard boxes stacked in the dining area. Jim starts to move them. Garage?
Garage is full of boxes of Spravy.
Don't get how that never caught on.
Yeah, real mystery that one, Jim. What meal isn't vastly improved by a couple of squirts of room temperature sprayable gravy? Maybe you should have thought of this before you invited them over.
I didn't. Wrench did.
Who's Wrench when he's at home?
Wrench staggers into the kitchen with the attaché case filled with poker paraphernalia.
Guilty as? You must be Susan.
Susie?
Wrench calls back down the hallway and beckons.
Come on, fellas. Jim, where's that beer you owe me? Mouth like a desert badger's sandy arsehole here.
Bobby and Ronnie enter the kitchen, introducing themselves to Susie. While this is going on, Jim pulls a beer out of the fridge. It's 0% alcohol. He picks up another, also non-alcoholic. He looks panicky. Then he looks at Wrench, looks at the bottle, smiles, shrugs, and pours it into a pint glass and takes it to him.
Look, fellas, I'm sorry to piss in your party hats, but you can't play in here. With all these boxes of, boxes are in the way.
Don't panic, Susan. The real men have arrived. We'll shift them. Come on, lads.
Wrench motions for the others to move the boxes, but remains where he is, not helping.
No, don't.
It's okay, I've got it.
Ronnie enthusiastically grabs a box to help Jim move them into the front room. Susie leaps to take it back off him.
No, you're all right.
A tug-of-war begins between Susie and Ronnie. Ronnie lets go, and the contents of the box spill over the dining table. 20 improbably large dildos with suction cups. As Susie has her back turned, picking up schlongs, Savile enters. In the following scene, Jim and Ronnie run boxes to the lounge.
What the bloody hell?
Hello, buying in bulk, eh? Nice.
Why have you got all penises in your kitchen?
Why? Where do you put yours?
I thought I recognised the voice. Susie Bagshaw. Still cheeky, I see.
Bloody Savile Cockburn.
Coburn.
Not what we used to call you.
Susie stands up quickly, realising she's been displaying her backside. You know each other.
A gentleman never tells. You married to Jimbo. Does he know about us?
What?
Ignore him.
Why have you got them?
Well, long story, but things have been a bit tight lately.
On storage space, tight on storage, yeah. What with all the deals and so we're stock juggling. Big business, hey, isn't it? Whoa, blooming mayhem. Tell you, when I left my well-paid job to concentrate on this, I
got sacked once.
No, I didn't get sacked, did I? No.
My uncle fired me. Put wrong fuel in his car.
Harsh.
Doesn't your uncle have a Tesla?
Rightio, let's have them all back in here.
Thanks, love.
If I can get that one off you, Wrench. You seem quite taken.
Bollocks, am I?
Wrench throws the dildo across the room. Close up, behind the dildo, circling through the air, heading straight for Jim. It sticks right in the middle of Jim's forehead. Cue Jim in great distress, trying to get it off, hands slipping, a man simulating frantic onanism with his prosthetic head penis. Susie rolls her eyes in a way that suggests that things like this happen to Jim fairly regularly, and carries the box into the front room.
Bloody hell, Wrench, you dickhead.
Glass houses, Jimbo.
Nice. Well, that should give people a bit of a feel for it.
Yeah, probably
Do you
turned off
do you
by
think
now.
we should have some canned laughter on that, Tom?
Yeah, no, it won't need it, will it? Right now, people they'll be rolling in the aisles, making their own laughter track for it. We should probably left a gap there, like 10 seconds or so, for that to die down.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I think that this is pretty brave of us to be putting it out there for everyone to hear.
Yeah, and possibly
Isn't it?
stupid as well, to be putting the whole thing in front of a TV exec with strict instructions to pull no punches and tell exactly what they think about an evil attempt to write TV comedy. I mean, that's fine, isn't it?
Come on, it might not be that bad. Maybe it's amazing. You know, it's quite hard to be objective, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it could be amazing, but I can't help feeling that if we don't think that ourselves in our core, like, do you mean, in our writer's core, then it might not be.
Well, then, do you know what we need to do, Tom?
What?
I think we need to jazz it up a bit.
Jazz it up what do you mean, jazz it up a bit?
Yeah, because you remember when we used to work in advertising together?
Fondly.
We
fondly.
would walk into that meeting room and we would give it the full beans,
Right,
presenting our
Yeah.
ideas. And by the end of it, that
Yeah.
client, they'd be eating out of our hands.
Yeah, or we'd never see them again.
Yeah, but that was one time, and I have not had a nosebleed into anyone's coffee since, Tom. So,
Yeah, I can't help feeling that was our modus operandi when we had some scripts together that we kind of knew had gaps in them or weren't quite. We wish we'd had a bit more time to work on or done something extra. But
Well,
fine,
yeah.
we'll roll with it. What's in your head? What are you thinking?
well, this is what I'm thinking, Tommy. This is what I'm thinking. And actually, just in time, because look, Rich is here. Hey, Rich.
All right, fellas.
Right, Rich, quick.
What?
Come in here and sit down
Okay.
in our specially made multi-directional sound audiotorium that we've just built especially for this pitch
Wow.
because the presentation is about to start.
Okay, cool.
Fingers crossed, Tommy. I think we got this in the bag.
Yeah, I hope you're right about this, John. It seems a bit, I don't know, over the top. Is it?
Trust me, Tommy, you got to go hard sell with these media
Right,
types.
okay.
Do you know what I mean? They like it proper meaty.
Right, fair enough. Let's go then. You ready, Rich?
Ready as I'll ever be, I guess.
Tonight, we're gonna take you on a journey to the very heart and soul of what it means to be a man. Poker Night, a 6-part sitcom dramedy about 6 men who play poker Now close your eyes
Unless you're driving or operating heavy machinery.
and picture a men-only poker group happily playing cards in the splendid isolation of the back room of a pub every Thursday. These 6 guys are real men. You know the score. No talking, no sharing and caring. Screw that bullshit. This is a chance to get away from her indoors and forget their everyday problems. Can't do that voice for very long.
Oh, you started going a bit more cowboy than film trailer, didn't you?
Yeah, you do the next bit, Tom.
Okay.
But when they're thrown out of the pub and find themselves having to take turns using their own homes to host poker night, their previously private lives are suddenly and painfully laid bare. For the first time, like the grease from a doner kebab, their guilty little secret...
I should say kebab. Americans say kebab. Should I say kebab or kebab?
That'll just confuse people.
Doner kebab, their guilty little secrets begin seeping through the cracks in their masculinity. The women in their lives now spilling into their poker night like chili sauce all over their best trousers.
Do you think that's a little bit too much, like a bit too much kebab analogy?
You just said make it meaty, didn't you? You said make it meaty. That's literally, kind of meaty. It's probably not much meat in a kebab, but yeah.
And what do you know? Even these...
That went a bit Clint Eastwood, didn't it?
Even these fellas that find the only way to improve their lives is to reassess, with the help of each other and especially the women around them, what it means to be a real man.
Yeah.
That's good. Let's keep going.
So why this? Why now? Tom.
Well, as men of a certain age and background, we grew up with a classic working-class sitcom, Steptoe and Son, Only Fools and Horses, Rising Damp, Phoenix Nights even. But we felt like, despite the fact that half of the UK consider themselves working class, it's a demographic that tends to be underrepresented on TV these days.
Yeah, but we didn't want to just rehash the genre. We wanted to bring it up to date as well. We felt like it was important to subvert all the old, toxic, stubbornly prevailing ideas around gender and masculinity, especially regarding the importance of revealing vulnerability. Do you know what I mean? Like opening yourself up rather than manning up, sharing problems with friends for the sake of your mental health. And we also wanted to show men and women treating each other as equals.
We very much straddle 2 different ideas of what a real man is, and thought it would be interesting to dig into that theme a bit more. We were also adamant our characters wouldn't just be archetypal chavs to be mocked in a Vicky Pollard kind of way. We wanted them to be like the people we grew up around. Normal, in inverted commas, folk. Representatives of human nature in all its glorious and surprising technicolor.
Yep, and just as importantly, while we focus on men in Poker Night, women are absolutely key to the series too. Like women not being seen as other, as though they're an entirely different species to men, but becoming friends, people that men look forward to spending time with and who have a powerful influence on events. That's also a massive part of the show.
Yeah, and we also decided that unlike old-fashioned sitcoms, our characters will break the rules by learning and changing in small but satisfying steps. Hence why this is not really a sitcom, but a sitcom drama deal or whatever.
Yeah, it's got a lot of heart. There's a lovely ending to the first episode, I think, where Jim has been pouring Wrench non-alcoholic beers all night, right? And Wrench is slowly sobering up because this man hasn't been sober for years, and he ends up in a big hand with Jim, who's now revealed to everyone, including his wife Susie, who's joined the game, that they're skint. In fact, they're desperate for money because the house is about to be repossessed and the gas cut off.
And it's at that point the rest of the guys, in a moment of solidarity, pool all their money for Jim to go up against Wrench in this big hand at the end. Wrench is saying he's got 2 natural 7s in his hand, which in this game would mean he wins everything. Sweeps the board clean. But Susie thinks he's bluffing and tells Jim to go all in, for over $1,000, which is massive money in their situation.
Yeah, and so he does. And Jim wins the hand and takes all the money, and Wrench is obviously kind of pissed off, but respectful, much less obnoxious than he's been for years. Then at the very end of the episode, when Wrench is walking home, he pulls 2 7s out of his sleeve, and he smiles to himself and kind of castigates himself for being such a big bloody softy.
Yeah, so, I mean, Wrench could have taken everything, but didn't. Something about the act of playing in Jim's house, into his real life, maybe, and, do you know what I mean, talking and revealing secrets makes Wrench do a very, very kind thing and throw the hand.
And that is what begins a pattern of every week these guys being put through the mill as they reveal their lives and their problems, and with the help from each other and the women in their lives, they slowly overcome them. Cue the music.
There'll be hilarity,
You get us a pickled egg and all, Wrench.
tears,
I didn't want you to think of me as a loser. I didn't want anyone to realise I'm just a massive useless prick.
and warm, fuzzy feelings all down in your guts.
Well, I'd say thanks for having me, but you've had me good and proper, so I'll save it for next time. Here again next Thursday?
Fuck off!
Poker Night, coming to a TV near you very soon. Probably.
So, Rich, what do you think? You've had the big pitch. You've had the
That
document.
was a big pitch. The one you just the audio one's that's big.
It was big.
Massive, isn't it?
You
We
went
felt
big,
like
yeah.
we needed to go big.
Yeah, that's good. I've had some. That's one of the bigger ones I've had. I've got to say. I
Yeah.
had a band record me a song once in a car.
Wow.
Oh
Like
wow.
they recorded a song about me, which was a bit weird, and that was big.
I'm glad we didn't do that.
No, we didn't. I'm glad we didn't.
That
do
has
that
been
now.
our modus operandi for other guests, so I'm
Has
glad.
it?
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't do that one. Yeah.
I'm just glad after the previous chat about nosebleeds that we're not in the same geographical location.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? I mean, do you want to go straight in
Yeah,
for the?
yeah.
Are we doing this?
Are we green lighting this
Are we-
right now?
Are we green lighting this right now? This is going to be the shortest fucking podcast in the history of all commissioning podcasts, but for all the wrong reasons. So that's not normally how it would work in a pitch meeting. You probably want to be a bit careful about letting somebody slam the door too soon. You want to just start dance around with them a bit. Do you know what I mean? Be a bit playful, tease, because actually the audio bit was it was kind of a bit teasing. Do you know what I mean? And so you probably want to just go into a bit of detail.
Yeah.
So I read the script first. The way I like to do, because quite often you get a script and you get the treatment, and I don't like to read the treatment first because it kind of it's a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah.
But also because it
Also,
it tells you what the writers were really trying to write.
Yeah, it tells you what you meant to think.
Much more fun to read what they've actually written and then read the treatment and go, oh, that was what they were.
that's what you were
That's what
trying
they were
to
It's
do.
what they were failing to do miserably.
Yeah. So actually, I had quite a different, and of course, what I just listened to on audio is the beginning of the treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I didn't have any of that context when I read the story, and so and I'll tell you why this is really relevant. I don't know how serious you want this to get, right?
We're happy to. We can go deep, can't we, Tom?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we go Wittgenstein right now, or shall I save that for later on? I'll tell you why that's really relevant. It's because as a commissioner, you're often trying to put yourselves in the kind of path of the viewer, basically. So you're trying to imagine like what their experience is going to be, and that isn't just within the show itself. That's before the show.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what do I like? What's the title? What's the log line? What's that promo going to look like? What am I going to know about this show before I even like? Am I even going to make the choice to tune in? Right. And that's kind of relevant because when I read the script, obviously it starts. The title of it is Poker Night, and it's all men. And so as a viewer coming into that, you've got a very different experience coming in to watch the show than you do if you're reading the first few paragraphs of the treatment, which are summing up the whole ethos of the whole series, right? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that then comes back to the fact that if you because I enjoyed the script. I thought it was fun. Genuinely, I enjoyed it. Actually, I read it really late last night, and when I started it, I thought, fucking hell, it's 45 pages long. That's quite long, and this is going to take me quite a while. And actually, I just whizzed through the whole thing really quickly, and that's a good sign. But actually, I understood it more from the treatment than I did from the script. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'd say you probably got still a bit more room. You've got a bit more headroom in delivering what's in the treatment in the actual script. And a part of that is probably you probably need to signal quite early on to people that
the kind of the themes,
what the show's really about. Yeah, because otherwise you're relying on people sitting with it for a while, and you've got to remember, it's called Poker Night. It starts in a pub.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of blokes, some of whom initially at least don't seem particularly likeable. And so you've got to think, and so then put yourself back in the path of the viewer, in that kind of like the kind of linear timeline of the viewer. I start watching this show, I'm a minute in, what's my experience like? And you've got to think about whether, as a viewer, I'm understanding the fact that this is what this is really about.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's really good that, because
I told you it'd be deep.
A film script, you wouldn't think twice about not doing that.
So exactly. So that's a really good point, right? So film script, right? You're probably making the assumption that you're going to have some good cast in there that are going to help you market that show, and generally in the film world, they're spending a lot more on marketing to get people in through the door. Once you're in through, obviously it's a bit different now if you're checking it out on Netflix a year later or whatever, or even even instantly, because obviously they make a lot of their own films now as well. But in the olden days, once you've got someone in through the door of the cinema and they're sitting in a seat, that buys you at least 45 minutes of their time, I reckon. Do you know what I mean? And I've left a couple of movies, but I don't think I've ever left one.
No, it's true.
Before,
like 5 minutes in, or whatever.
Well, even though I was being mean, I'd say like a good half hour. Even at half hour, you're thinking this could still get better. Anyway, so you're right. It is a very different experience with a movie, I think, than it is from TV.
Yeah.
And TV, as we know, if you go to the cinema, there's probably 3 or 4 other movies on in the same week. They're never at the same time. So it's not like you could kind of start one and go, do you know what, this isn't as good as I thought. I'll flip over to screen 4. But of course, on TV, there's like 90 other channels there literally all the time for you to be distracted with.
Yeah, so you've got to state your theme. Yeah, we are definitely sort of. Yeah, there's a vagueness about the theme, even though you get a sense of what might be going on. It's not. It's got to be clearer, hasn't it?
Which I think it was intentional from our point of view to some extent, wasn't it? To take it down as low as possible on that first bit, because that's the sort of the depth that they've hit. That's their lowest. This is them in their raw lowest bit.
But of course, you have the advantage of knowing
obviously,
more about them and knowing where they're going.
So, are you suggesting that we post the treatment out to everyone that's going to potentially watch it? Yeah. Maybe
I'm suggesting. I'm just trying to do I'm doing the math basically. I'm thinking
I can see some bus sides with the treatment on and stuff, like things for people to.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're in, so they get it.
You could get it out on Twitter, or like digitally. You could probably post it out pretty cheap, and go back 10 years. You don't have to literally mail the whole lot out. That would have been impractical.
Take out an ad in the Times or something.
Yeah. And then you think about some other TV shows. Think about like a Ricky Gervais show. Because you know what his approach is. You know if a show starts and you come straight in hard on a misogynist character, you know he's sending those values up basically because you know who he is, right? And probably there's just like not all sitcoms are equal basically. In terms of how they're going to get.
And so you're saying
experience?
Sorry, Rich. Are you saying you can get Ricky Gervais to be cast in this, or not?
I'm saying
is that what we're saying? Is that what we're
that would work? I think that would work.
I think for the right amount of money, I think you could get most people. But it's just a sliding scale of money, basically. I mean, 100 million to get you Clooney, I reckon.
Right.
You might even do it for 50, but but it is a sliding scale, and there's a few people that are really right at the top end. Basically, I think you get any of the 3 of us for a £5,
and then upwards from there.
And then it's like a sliding scale upwards from there. Exactly.
That's good. Anything else jump straight out at
good
you?
Or bad?
So again, so look, genuinely, this is because when people pitch you ideas. So again, it's slightly different in scripted and unscripted. Scripted, you tend to. You can get given like a log line, just a few lines, bit of a stuff, but ultimately you've got to read the script. And at that point, you're kind of knee deep, right? With an unscripted idea, you'll get people pitching more in the room.
Yeah.
So when it, as in you're like really kind of talk through some of the mechanics. So generally, and I just giving you a bit of an insight into commissioning. Quite often you find yourself in a position of getting pitch stuff which you've heard before, right?
That must happen quite a lot, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, it does happen quite a lot. I have this kind of theory that I talk to my team about and to other kind of commissioners about, that generally what we're looking for, right, is stuff that stands out. And a lot of stuff doesn't stand out because it's very similar to other stuff, right? And so you've got to remember as a someone pitching an idea in, you're going in with your 5 ideas. but that commissioner has heard all of the other ideas. You know what I mean? So they've got, so you go in being quite excited because obviously you've spent a lot of time passionately like preparing some of this stuff and like really kind of getting under the bonnet of it. But you're not aware of the fact that commissioner heard that idea 3 times last week. So to complete that, so I had this kind of thing that as a commissioner, what you really want to do is you want to hear a lot of ideas. And in doing so, you effectively, it's like if I brought someone in front of you and said, "Is this a tall person?" You'd be like, well, I guess so, but you've got nothing to judge it by, right? But if you get 100 people to stand in a field, you're very quickly going to see who the tall people are. And there's a similar kind of thing with ideas, right? So if you hear 100, you're going to hear, so let's say ideas that we get for Dave, right? We get a lot of motoring ideas. We get a lot of panel show ideas. And a lot of those ideas, because they're in very similar spaces, they're going to sound quite similar. So all of those ideas are going to meld together. And then you're going to get something off the wall. And that's going to be your tall idea. That's going to be the one that stands out. Because you've heard 100 ideas and there's going to be 2 or 3 that are quite different. But as a commissioner, you quite often find yourself in a position where people are coming in and quite quickly you think, I've heard this before, or, and at that point you've kind of got a choice. You either say, let me stop you there. I've heard this before. But some people have come a long way, right? People particularly pre-Zoom, people would travel a few hours to come for a meeting. And you don't want to sound like an arsehole. So you kind of have to, so this is coming back to like, you asked me about, is this greenlit? You want to kind of step through some of the aspects of it and just try and dance a little bit. You want to kind of get under the skin a little bit. So where I would go with that is the guys seem, okay, I've got no sense from the script that what is now going to happen is I'm going to go around the different houses.
Right.
Because obviously that's episode 2 and beyond. So I don't quite understand what actually is that. It was a nice construct when I read the treatment, and I thought, okay, I get that, and I can see how you're getting access to their lives in a way. They're all getting access to each other's lives in a way that they haven't had before. Yeah. And so some way of signposting that within the script, i.e., the life that they lead at home is quite different from the life that, and it's kind of touched upon, but I think you could go further in showing that there's a kind of reveal, basically, that what they think about their friends, this group of friends, and it's kind of hard to tell whether they are actually friends or whether they've just been thrown together at the beginning. Just throwing that out there. But you want to, I think, try and point out a bit more that there's a disparity between what they are like in this group of friends and then what their home lives are like. So you start to get a bit more of a sense that, and then somehow try and find a way of showing that you're going to, the conceit of the series is that you're going to move around the houses and therefore you're going to see different people. And that you may only be able to do that through the coming up next week at the end of the episode, and obviously you're at a different person's house, so you go, oh, okay, I see now. But one thing that struck me fairly early on was it was the kind of the variety of characters in the mix. And to me it seemed like you've got Wrench, who's quite a strong character, and you've got Jim and his wife Susie. That's right, isn't it? And they become quite kind of clearly created characters because you're in their home space. And obviously you're getting more information about them than there was. And then all of the others kind of blur a little together.
They're bags of meat.
I wouldn't say bags of meat, and that's now you're touching upon expressions never to use as a commissioner. And bags of meat is one of them. Particularly when you're talking to the actors' agents, that doesn't go down that well. But
I've got a great role for you.
But yes, but actually some kind of clearer differentiation of the other people in the mix. Okay. You're naturally, I can realise that this is going to be a lot of me talking. But anyway,
that's good.
I'm going to keep going.
That's what we like.
There's a kind of thing in comedy about people kind of repeating silly actions, or people kind of being silly, and obviously over time it can become quite funny, but actually as you kind of enter into it, it kind of starts to be a bit annoying until you realise that is the kind of gag, that there's this kind of repetition. Right? So there's a kind of, basically until you see the bigger picture, you're confronted with a very different set of values. And so at the beginning of this, you're confronted with a bunch of guys in a pub, as I say, some of whom aren't that likeable. They just seem a bit. They're kind of a bit annoying, right? And I suppose you've set yourself a bit of a challenge in the fact that you've got a bunch of men who almost entirely, apart from one, as far as I can tell, are white, who are all between the ages of, and I'm going to make this up because I think the youngest is probably his late 20s, so they're probably between like kind of 28 and early 40s. And it's quite a narrow band. And so there's a kind of, I guess this kind of comes back to trying to give people a better idea of where you're headed. Because entering into it, you're confronted with a lot of men in a very male environment. And the show's called Poker, which is a very male thing. So you're going to have to work quite hard to signal to women
where this is going.
Where this is going, right? And of course, you've got to remember that when people are watching telly at home, they're often watching with their partner.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be in a position where he thinks, I fucking love poker and pubs. Brilliant. This is my sitcom. And she's like, I think I'll check out Married at First Sight over on E4. So you've got to have to work quite hard to try to make those characters, or at least some of the characters, a bit more kind of richly cast, a bit deeper cast, a bit more like give them a bit of vulnerability or a bit of an emotional edge or something that's going to kind of bring in a broader audience than just your. And this is to Tom, your point about wanting to create that kind of low point right at the front, at the top.
Yeah.
This is really what I'm trying to say about this kind of comic device of repeating something annoying. It's invariably annoying for the viewer at first. So you've got to find a way of kind of getting around that.
Yeah.
Is if you're committing to that kind of approach, you've got to remember that as a viewer, that it's a very different experience than it is from you as the writer, basically.
Because you know what's coming. Yeah. I mean, are we talking about like small devices, kind of save the cat type devices in order to achieve that?
Go with the. Let's have the save the cat device. Tell me.
As in character does something.
Play that one out.
They kind of step out of there.
I thought you were going to paint a picture of one of the characters actually saving a cat at the beginning of the.
Actually saving a cat.
I wanted to hear how that was going to play out.
They could. Yeah, they could. The poor cat on the roof of the pub.
Well, you see, in my mind, possibly a solution to that is to show them leaving their own homes to come to the poker night. So revealing some of the stuff that we weren't going to reveal till later.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Savile gives his mum a kiss on the forehead and checks she's all right before he leaves. Susie tells Jim not to spend too much money down the pub, and he says, "Oh yeah, but we're not playing for proper money." And we do that with each of the. Ronnie says goodbye to his parents. He's been helping in the shop.
I think we've just. That's a very elegant way of doing that. I think what you get is
added another bloody 5 minutes to it, hasn't it? So now we need to lose all the funny bits in the middle, John.
Take the humour out. I don't know what's there. But Tom, I think that's a really elegant way of giving you a sense of the
real them before
the delta between their home lives
and their pretend
and the pub life.
Yeah.
But also, as you say, and to that point about Susie saying don't spend the money, it gives you the ability to set up some of the motivation for some of these characters. I.e., he's really worried about money.
You can do some of the exposition.
Nice.
Yeah. You could potentially as well you could get away with not doing all the characters. You could just have 3 of them or something.
Yeah, I think you got to. I know that's the thing about poker, right? Is you've got a certain number of people around the table, but in some ways, it's a lot of people to set up at the beginning. Tom, I was thinking because you, there weren't 3 of you, right? And you've got rid of one of the guys, and I just think that was a really smart. That was a really smart answer to that issue, and I just wonder whether John's deadweight.
I mean, deadweight's probably harsh. Yeah.
Whether you want to cut him loose and come and have a bit of a chat.
I'm so hurt. I'm done. I'm done.
I've been cast adrift, and I am really rather miffed. Feeling slighted and sad. I know my writing is bad, but I don't think I deserve to be stiffed. How can Tom be so heartless? What a backstabbing bastard. Chance comes along when he couldn't have been quicker to drop me like a rock, like a pair of knickers. First Dave has gone, and there goes Tom.
Okay, so let's come back to the number of characters, right? I think you've got 5 5 people plus Steve, 6 characters are set up at the beginning of a piece. Is a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Like you're going to, just for screen time, and to your point, Tom, I'm going to cut the funny stuff out the middle. What you're going to find is you've got half the number of lines to set them up and to create the character, their vulnerability, what they want, what they need.
Are you suggesting we cut some characters?
I'm thinking Bridge is a 4 people.
We could really tap into that over 70 female market, couldn't we?
Exactly. But okay, so Tom, you've segued nicely into a different area, which is the audience, right? Is the demographic of the audience. It's hugely significant depending on where you take them. Let's say you were pitching this to any one of a number of people, like BBC, Channel 4, UK TV, Sky, who are probably the only people really commissioning comedy at the moment. They're all going to have really different people that they're trying to attract, basically, and that's going to be really significant in terms of the characters, the subject matter, the setting, and what is unusual is for you to come up with a set of characters and a setting that really appeals to all of those people. So actually, you'll find naturally that your project tends towards a broadcaster.
Right. Yeah. Fits in with where they're trying to aim stuff.
And then if they don't want it, you're fine.
So imagine that this wasn't just silly, Rich, and
I don't consider this to be silly at all. If this was a really good script, I'd put some money on the table right now.
What would be, we've had a lovely meeting, we've done the pitch, we've done the dance, we've got out the costumes, put our normal clothes back on, and we're getting ready to be escorted off the premises.
Yes.
Where would you leave this then?
Do you mean as commissioning from my
Was that silence just you imagining that you just shut the door? Is that
I was literally imagining who the security guards might be.
Security!
Yeah. Do you mean, Tom, with my kind of UK TV commissioning hat on, or do you just
absolutely, yeah.
Just so like, where would this sit for our channel?
Yeah, is it piss off, never come back?
No.
In terms of
no, it's not piss off, never come back. I think there's the beginnings of some good characters in there, and I think that the kind of the subject area of toxic masculinity and working class is a good area. You need to think really smartly. Your idea about starting at home is a good start in that area, but you need to think really smartly about how you make a show that feels really modern. It's got a really interesting structure that kind of lays some stuff out instantly for the viewer quite early on and kind of leads them into that space. But I wouldn't like fold it up and stick it in the bottom drawer. I'd keep working on it. Why not?
That's good. That's very good. You obviously you've been on the end of quite a lot of pitches in your time. Are you allowed to tell us what the worst pitch you've ever been subjected to is? Don't say ours.
Oh no, yours is definitely not the worst pitch I've ever been subjected to.
Yes,
6 days.
We'll take
that. That's a fucking low bar, isn't it? I used to get a bunch of stuff pitched that still had other broadcasters' names in the top right-hand corner of the pitch.
While they were stood there going, and we think this would be perfect for your network.
But you know what? Do you know what I've had? It's actually one stage beyond that, Tom, which is I've definitely had a pitch where I've really seriously questioned whether the person pitching knew that I was who I am, and actually whether they'd assumed that I was somebody from that other network in the top corner of the script. And they've kind of gone quite a long way down, and I'm sure I've had one where I've had to tell someone that this is the wrong channel, that they're actually talking to me about in the room, the reason I think it'd be so good for BBC Three is, and I'm like, that's really good, you should go and talk to them about it.
Wow.
I've had a few bribes, I've had a few cakes brought in, and along with the song, I mean, talent is always a really good way of selling an idea. So if you had let's go back to what we were talking about at the beginning. If you got Gervais on board, if you came in and said, Rich, we've got Gervais, then a lot of the things that I think could do with improving in the script are going to magically dissolve away. Because he's going to bring literally 1 million people to that first episode
and rewrite it quite well as well. Probably.
Yes, exactly that. He'll like lean into it. There's a thing about people not quite understanding where your head is at, and this is not a criticism of people pitching ideas. But if you imagine, so let's talk about Dave, which is only one of our channels, but happens to be the one that we commission the most volume for. So there's like Dave is going out right now, but most of the people who are coming in and pitching last saw the channel 6 to 12 months ago. right? So they're already working on kind of Dave 22, right? As commissioners, we're commissioning a year to 2 years ahead.
Yeah, interesting.
So our heads are already in Dave 24 to 25. So the kind of gap in knowledge and expectation between where quite a lot of people that come in and pitch and where our heads are at in terms of where we want the channel to go is probably between 2.5 and 3 years. And so you get a lot of people who are kind of pitching to a channel that used to exist.
Yeah.
So you will have a constantly evolving commissioning strategy then, presumably, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That you guys will all have discussed and be very, be quite specific.
Yeah, it's like...
Or are you still kind of open to, well, we'll just see what comes in?
We are, there's always...
I imagine, sorry to interrupt,
Yes,
Rich, but I imagine, this is what I imagine, is that you sit around a table together, decide what the next big thing's going to be, and then on the back of a really good pitch from someone, change your mind.
Or someone's given us a pitch, we turn it down, but then we take that idea and I go to work tomorrow and I say, guys, I've got an idea about it. It's called Poker
Night
Afternoon.
It's called Bingo Night, and it's about these 6 women.
It's Bridge Night. It's Snap Night. 2 characters. Sorry, my brain's gone. I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Sorry, I interrupted. No. Yeah, no. Is that what happens? That you kind of decide what you think will be big in the coming 18 months?
Sorry. There's always an element of see what comes in. So one of the approaches that I always tried to take was not to be over specific about what you wanted. And I think that the UK TV, the network that I work for, has that advantage where we commission a bit, right? And we kind of dot that across the schedule, but we're not having to fill a whole schedule. So if you're trying to fill a whole schedule and you're the BBC, then you've built up a very regular audience to that Wednesday evening slot who know that that's a cookery slot. So when that cookery show ends, that cookery series ends, you need another cookery series. Or you're going to have something that you feel that audience is definitely going to want to buy into, because you've got 2 million people tuning in every Wednesday night expecting to see something in that space. So they tend to then be very focused on what they want. Yeah. And from my point of view, what that does is it really narrows. So let's say your Scandinavian cookery series ends. And so you think, okay, well, there's got to be another cookery series, obviously. So, we've done Scandinavia, we did, this other country last time. Let's do Japan or whatever. If you said, I want a Japanese cookery show, there's going to be 3 of those ideas out there in the market already. That's not a lot of ideas to choose from. Now, if you go the other way, so my approach is always to go the other way and say, okay, well, what do we want these commissions to actually do for us? There's really only 2 things that I've got to have. Okay, I've got to have that show reinforcing the idea, the tone of voice of the channel, the idea of Dave. Yeah, you've got to have that show. It's got to feel like a Dave show. It's got to, not only feel like it fits within that universe, but feel like it kind of carries the brand on, right? So there's the kind of brand piece. The other thing that I really wanted to do, the job I want each of them to do, is I wanted to change our reputation. I wanted to change the way that people feel about us. So I want people to come to that show and go, fucking hell, I never thought Gervais would do that on Dave. Or whoever that talent is, right? And oh God, I never thought they'd do a drama. I never thought they'd do we did a live boxing fight with David Hay. I never thought Dave would do live boxing. And that's it really. And so if you've got those 2 things, those 2 kind of boxes checked, you've got access to all of the ideas. That could be that Japanese cookery show, but it could also be some fact tent show from the US. It could be whatever. It could be like a whole range of different stuff. And that gives you so much more opportunity to find those really kind of far out different pieces. And so you've got to have your ear, you've always got to be open to the surprise element.
So it's a proper balancing act then, isn't it? Between not having the balls to do anything different and just stick with it because it's safe and that's your guaranteed audience, to having massive balls and doing something completely different at the same time.
Exactly. And the answer is you've got a portfolio of ideas. So you're trying to do some where you go, those feel a bit safer.
Yeah.
And you're trying to do some that feel really far out there, because you can't be far out there with everything.
Yeah.
But genuinely, those far out there ideas, they're the ones that you're excited about.
Yeah.
And some of them literally die on their own. Yeah. I've literally skipped along the pavement before thinking, we've got an award-winning show. Woohoo! And then it's gone out, everyone's been excited about it. It's gone out and everyone's been like, yeah. Didn't do as well as we hoped.
No.
And you're like, fucking hell, I just spent 12 months doing that. And so it's a great leveler. It is a really good leveler. And I think you can see it if you look at the successes across TV. One of the most recent ones is Traitors, right, on BBC. It's a different show from anything that's been out there before. It's got a kind of different vibe. You know, look at Bake Off. Bake Off that came in that time when there were a lot of nasty shows around.
Yeah.
And it had a very different approach, you know. But for you to kind of... so let's transport ourselves into the decision-making room when Bake Off was commissioned. I don't think they would have sat down and said... Or even go back the day before when the commissioning team were getting together and go, what do we need? I don't think they said, I think we need a nice show. You know, and actually when they were in that room talking to Love Productions, you know, the brilliant producers of Bake Off, I don't think they would have been saying, this feels really timely. I think they would have thought, you know, I like this for all these reasons, let's give it a go, right? But, you know, people aren't fortune tellers.
Yeah.
And that's what I suppose I'm saying about you think you've got a hit and you're skipping along the pavement. It turns out to be a bit of a damp squib.
Well, maybe with this show, Rich,
the opposite way around.
You think you haven't got a hit.
Yeah.
When actually...
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've done that where you think you're like, oh, I quite like that, but you turn it down and then it goes on to be a big hit somewhere else.
Oh, you'd be kicking yourself.
Well, you do, but then there's always a really easy get out as a commissioner, which of course is, it wouldn't have worked if it had been on our channel.
It's found its right home. I did the right thing there.
Exactly.
It really helped.
I've done the world a favour by letting that show go to
where it belongs. Where it belongs.
Yeah, exactly. Where it belongs. Yeah, we'd have killed it. Yeah.
Well, that's been wonderful, Rich.
Is it?
We ended it there. You're not going to ask him about a second series, John, or not?
Yeah, we did. Well, I'm trying to think whether
actually we got ideas for a third series as well, Rich. Just
the other question is there ever a series that we've commissioned 2 series of straight away? Don't think there is.
Listen, before you go, Rich, before we let you go, I probably should have asked this like right back at the beginning, but it would be nice, I think, for our listeners to know
who I am,
more kind of who you are. No, more generally, what like tell us about your current position, Rich. What do you do? What does a normal day look like, if that's possible?
Look, my day is talking to a lot of people, listening to a lot of ideas. I'm very lucky in that I do a job that every day is incredibly different. Some of that is really challenging. Some of that is some really difficult conversations with people. There's a lot of, particularly when I was more directly commissioning, and as opposed to now running a team of commissioners, there was a lot of saying no to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But sorry, you asked me to sum up what I actually do. So my job now is to look after the content pipeline, effectively. So the content coming into UK TV. So we have 7 channels: Dave, W, Gold, Alibi, Drama, Yesterday and Eden. And we've also got UK TV Play, which is our kind of VOD service like iPlayer. And obviously all of those channels need a bunch of content, right? So my teams either commission content or they acquire content. So either commissioning literally from a paragraph or a piece of paper or an initial pitch all the way through to it being delivered, and like all the way through that process of casting it and making it and signing off on it and the edit and all that stuff. Or acquiring stuff that's already made and already out there. There's a lot of US shows that are out there in the market. They're made for the US market, but obviously there are rights that can be acquired for other territories. And so that's what the team's doing on a day-to-day basis, is making sure we've got the best content that we can get to fill those channels. And then within that, there's casting conversations, there's rolling up the sleeves and getting into a script, whether it's a comedy script or a drama, there's structuring formats, there's, there's just a lot of different stuff. It's a lot of different stuff. Looking at partnerships.
So you're saying you occasionally actually get involved in the nitty gritty.
Yeah, less so now, but I still do, definitely. Yeah, so all of the ideas that get commissioned come to me and to my colleague Steve, and we talk through the format. We talk about the talent, the format, and the title, and how we're going to sell it, and what it does for the channel, or what's it going to cost. There's a whole bit of the job which is around the practicality of filming this stuff. When's it going to be filmed? What's the schedule? I've got an amazing production team who are across a bunch of budgets, because when you're spending tens of millions of pounds, you've got to keep your eye on this stuff. I'm very lucky, as I say, that every day is both jam packed and is also really different.
God, that sounds stressful. I'm not great with like £100 going to the supermarket.
Do you know what? It's funny that you should say that. When I first started commissioning, that does kind of roll through your head. I think, I'm spending £1.5 million on this. How does that feel, right? And it's not that you get blunted by it, or you kind of like you become desensitized to it. You just, I don't know. You view it differently after a while. It's not that you don't become careless.
I suppose that's your job, isn't it? So you're going to.
Yeah, and also, sometimes you hit a vein. It's all gambles, right? You're going out with your mining tools, and you're having a look around, and go, I could dig here, we could dig there, and let's see what we find, right? And sometimes you find nothing. Sometimes you think you found something, and it turns out to be nothing. And sometimes you find a really rich vein, and at that point, you know, it is possible to kind of calculate the value of these things. And at that point, you think, okay, well, we spent $1.5 million on this, but actually, it's, you know, generally that is acquisitions. I've got to say, because they are cheaper to acquire stuff than it is to make it. So if you buy something cheaply, storage hunters, right? We bought that quite cheaply for Dave, and it was all over the channel for a while, and it led to, I think, to Dave's best ever year since 2017. And you know, the kind of delta between what you pay for it and then what that show actually kind of brings in terms of audience and money is like, it can be huge. And at that point you think, wow, that was a good call.
Well, Rich, that was brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful little insight into the world of TV.
I hope it was all right. I feel like I've blabbled a lot.
You did, but it was all high quality blabble.
Thank you firstly for confirming that I was blabbling, because I admire your honesty, but then you saved it with the high quality, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much, both of you. Listen, keep writing. Send me the next version of the script.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, take care.
Cheers, Rich.
Bye.
There you are. What do you think, Tommy? Instant reaction?
Yeah, fair comment, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think probably it's fair to say that Rich liked Poker Night more than I did.
I know what you mean. I've sort of gone off it a little bit.
I don't like it. You know what? I actually don't like it.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say that.
I didn't want to say it earlier.
No, it's
well, we're still doing it. I enjoyed the process of I enjoyed messing around with it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
no, I did.
I think it actually goes to show a lot that you need to believe in something to push it and to pitch it and to actually
right in it.
And I'm not sure I ever did with Poker Night. Really, certainly fell off more as we kind of got through it, and then we're at the point where you've gone so far down the line that there's not you know, saying, right, should we just scrap this and do something completely different? Because obviously the way we'd woven it in a little bit with the podcast and stuff was probably a bit silly looking back, but that's what we did, isn't it? And so we were kind of making the best of where we were, I think, really.
It felt like we'd put a lot of money in the pot, didn't it?
Yeah. The sunk cost fallacy, I believe they call it. Yeah.
We couldn't fold.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, so in terms of, I guess, not surprised that it's not a finished article. You know, there's not kind of like,
There was no question about that.
Completely see his misgivings about the sort of the demographic side of it and what we're kind of putting out there. But it's quite interesting actually, because that's not something we'd necessarily directly thought about.
No, not in that.
We'd considered it, but not
in those terms.
Not from that angle. Yeah, that was looking from a different angle at it, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we'd not really thought about the consuming of it.
Yeah. Which is weird, really, because now he said it, it seems really obvious.
No, it seems obvious, but we'd taken it out of context. It hadn't sat in. Exactly what you said of the process starts in the trailer, the 20-second trailer that's on 2 weeks before. And we'd not started there. We'd started way further down.
No, exactly.
So that was interesting. But no, it was nice for him not to tell us that we were shit or anything. Do you remember to say he enjoyed reading the script?
Yeah. I mean, that's something, isn't it?
Yeah,
something to be able to write something that's entertaining, that's entertained somebody a bit.
Because he sees a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I'm not massively up for rewriting it. I'm not sure there's anything to save in it, really.
Yeah, I think there's something in there, but it requires more than I've got in me.
I think more belief in it. Like I said before, you need to really think, God, do you know what? No, you're wrong. This can work.
Yeah,
Don't you? With that kind of feedback.
Yeah,
you need to be able to take it on board in a positive way, but in a way of going, right, I get what you're saying, but I can make this. No, it's worth saving.
Yeah, absolutely right. If a commissioner kind of stepped on it a bit, we would just capitulate. We wouldn't try and stick up.
Yeah. We're not defending it. Oh yeah, you're right. Really, yeah. But I mean, it's what people have said. The people we've had on, the writers from all different walks of writing. If that's not a mixed metaphor, have said you've got to do what you love.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got to be in. You can't fake it. You can't.
Yeah.
And we've been exposed slightly on that with this. I mean, full credit to us for actually finishing it, John.
Well, yeah. Christ, that is a really good point, Tommy. Do you know, I'd not thought of it in those terms, but we have actually...
Right now, we have actually done what we said we were going to do. Write a sitcom and a treatment and present it to a commissioning editor.
Well, that is a massive positive.
So, We'll take that, won't we? We'll take that.
Yeah.
And it's always good doing bits of writing, isn't it? Different writing, different things, and what have you.
A good learn.
Yeah.
Nice to finally get that out of the way.
Time to crack on with a new series and some fresh writing.
Yeah.
So that's there ends that whole horrid, sordid affair. As previously stated, I think I do hate Poker Night now, and would be grateful if we never mentioned it ever again. I think, in the end, I think I was probably slightly embarrassed by it.
Do you think that bad, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
No, I didn't feel embarrassed about it, and I think the reason for that is that it's like anything. When you're approaching something for the first time, it's incredibly hard to be objective about it, which we've discovered several times. And I think you just, if we were to do it again, which I know we're not going to, but if we were to do it again, I feel like if I could start again, I'd have a much better idea now of how to go about the process of
absolutely,
starting it and some of the pitfalls that you inevitably fall into. I mean, but that doesn't help, does it? Because we're probably not going to do that. No. But it's all writing, isn't it? It's all writing, and no writing is wasted, as we've learned.
Anyway, let's never talk about it again. Let's look forward to season 3. That's where it's all at. We've got some brilliant ideas for season 3. We've already interviewed quite a few people, big names, authors, agents.
Yeah, we've been busy.
Poets.
We've got a whole host of brilliant names lined up for you, which is actually quite a nice thing, isn't it? Because we didn't really have a plan last season.
No, but we have got a plan this season. That goes all
probably
the way,
didn't notice.
all the way through the year, even to near the end of the year when you've got your performance of your husband and wife double act. That's it. That's in the diary somewhere.
You put that in?
I did. I'm going to come along and I'm going to do a live on the spot report and critique it. So,
good.
I mean,
well, that's something to look forward to, isn't it?
But yeah, before then, I mean, that's towards the end of the year. We've got packed full of stuff, great stuff. So
we've got a lot of goodness, nourishing goodness.
So it's nice to put a lid on season 2, isn't it?
And then, finally.
What are we like? And then, next week, season 3, here we come.
Very exciting.
See you then, listeners.
See you next week then for season 3. Bye.
Hello? Where's everybody gone?
I'm Tom. I'm not sure we've worked together, but I have worked together with John before, and he's a very talented.
Yeah, there you go. That'll do. Keep it vague.
I try not to tell him that to his face.
Oh, sorry, you're being serious, right? Cool. I thought it was like
no. I'm being
coming out your mouth, Rich. I just sounded
no, you
so
didn't
disingenuous.
You didn't all. I'm just teasing. He is a very talented man.
A very talented man.
Yeah. We just need to find what that talent is, don't we? What he's talented in.
I know, that's the thing.
That's the trouble, isn't it?
Just got to unearth it and then find the audience for it.
What could it be?
But yeah.